Okay, so let me show how I'm finishing these UI panels for Total Atomic Power. Um, they're they're being rendered using Octane for Blender, and which is a real-time render. This is the free version, and very competent, very fast. I really like its look more than Cycles for Blender. Just a tad bit. Cycles is very good as well, and a bit faster. But I really like the looks and especially the composition possibilities and features that it provides us when you're dealing with renderings, which is just awesome, really. Something called AOV. I can't remember what this acronym means. Something like adjustable output, whatever, for render passes. So basically, after I had modeled this, I brought it over from Illustrator, the SVGs, then converted to shapes, extruded, um, quad modeled the shapes and assigned the textures using the same atlases we use on the game for the game. So yeah, now it's basically time to, oh yeah, and the material has to be reassigned so that it works with Octane. So basically just selecting the render engine here out of Cycles and to Octane, it's going to be all black, so you have to go to the shader editor and yeah, shader editor, and then there are two options you have to mess with. For the object, you create the shader, so I created a new material. Yeah, and there's basically a material output. I use a mixed material to combine metallic and diffuse because yeah, like transparency is not available for metallic and it's available for diffuse and so on and so forth. There are different properties that you can use. I believe emission as well. Yeah, emission was a problem. I really needed emission here on the diffuse. Anyway, so I do a mixed material, basically 50%, and then the images that I used, the base texture, the ND1, which carries the secondary channels, used for specular roughness and emission, come from this secondary image, also used in game, and the normal map, which is the same, used in game, which I apply to both materials, and that with the mixed materials gives me the final surface. Okay, so that's for the object, so I assign the material to the object as usual, no big deal, just assign it to the proper object. That's the one. Okay, so yeah, pretty trivial stuff, just assign it. And with the material set, shouldn't be too hard. Then you go to world settings. That's for the texture environment to eliminate, provide reflections, all of that. And it's easy to just add all the Octane nodes are grouped here, output, input. So it comes with the world output. So just add a texture environment and an RGB image. I used the UV transform to just rotate it around until the reflection looks good. You probably want to see 3D view while you're doing that. Yeah, and I messed with the Z rotation. You can also, usually translation will, it's sufficient. I just use rotation because I tried it, we're good, I left it in there. But some tutorials and sites recommend using the translation. Bear in mind, scale does make a difference, so especially for small objects relatively to the world size, you'll want to scale it up, and the other way around. Okay, so yeah, with that we're basically set, and as soon as you assign viewport shading, you should be seeing this here. So the trick here is, how do I set up the passes, right? And actually render this. Because yeah, it's real-time rendering and all, but if you just render it, you know, like this, and try to export, then you have to save up pass by pass. In this case, the passes are already set up, which is, you know, a pain in the ass. So ideally you want to set it up so that you can just go to image, save as, and then select open EXR, so you get modal layers ready for Photoshop or whatever other program you use for image editing. One thing important is that you will need the open EXR plugin. Where's that? Yeah, EXR.io. You will need this guy, because the one, at least the one which comes with Photoshop, just doesn't work correctly. Okay, so make sure to download it, shut down Photoshop if that's the software you use, and run it again. Okay, and this is the rendered image. So the trick, really, it's not super simple. There's a video which really helped me understand this, which is this: using the real-time composite and light mixer in Octane for Blender, which just, you know, it actually shows the workflow for the AOVs in a 5 minutes video. So yeah, to the point. I'm gonna leave the link here in the description. But yeah, in a nutshell, you need to add two things. You need to mess with two panels and add two things, which is first the Octane Render AOV. Oh, first, well, there are a number of things to do. You gotta go to passes. You have to change this from classic to render AOV, right? And this will be empty until you actually create one. So create it. You go to Octane Render AOV, and if you don't have it, if you don't have one, just click here. It's gonna set up a basic one. In my case, I have already done it. So what you have to do here is define what's the pass used for preview. So yeah, this render AOV group, it's, you know, render AOV, you have render AOV group, and you have to add, you click on add inputs to every layer. At the end of the day, think about those as layers, and layers which will be rendered separately and exported to XR, and then imported into Photoshop as separate layers in the final EXR file. So don't ask me too much about those options. I don't really know. I know the minimum required, and that even that took me a long time to figure out. So I'm just desiccating the basic of the basics workflow here. So the ones I'm using is denoise, diffuse, basically all the denoise one. You definitely want to get denoise working. There are many videos showing how to do that. Even on layout, if you go to Octane, you can override with denoiser and just set this up, or you can do this straight into the settings for the render, right? In the render properties, you get somewhere around quality alpha. Is that even here? I don't know. Octane server. Yeah, I think that's the one. Nope. Well, you can set it up separately, but I usually do it on override. This is like a global thing. Maybe it's on camera. Can't remember. I used it once with denoiser. Yeah, it's on camera. So you can turn it off on the camera. But anyways, whatever is in an imager that's overriding will be overriding, right? So just remember that. And there's the post process, which you can also override. So what I use this for is for the amazing glare and bloom options. It's just so so good, looks so good. It's amazing, it's fast. So yeah, and of course you can set up and the image as well, as you can see here, but it's usually more handy, um, to use override. Your mileage may vary, just just my experience. Okay, so with that done, you will be able to here in render, you'll be able to assign the render engine, the kernel, yeah, here on passes. Okay, so then you, when you do that, you'll be able to assign it here, the node tree with the AOVs, whatever selected as the preview render pass will show up in here. I didn't touch much any of those. I think most important is on the quality of the render. You should have not so high max samples, but at least enough for the denoiser to do decent work. So those are the numbers that I'm using after some passes and watching some videos. It seems to be pretty good. Yeah, it looks good to me. Oh yeah, make sure to enable alpha channel. This is a problem. Alpha channel has been a problem for me. It doesn't work across the board, like in the post processing forever. For example, it does not work. I haven't found a way to do it, but it's very easy to just using composition later in Photoshop or whatever. It's easy for you to just use multiply or overlay some multiplication mode. Anyways, yeah, so with the passes setup, you will also need a compositor. That's something I failed to realize. So I first set this up, then I rendered, then here in render I tried to save the image, just image, save as, select these options, and it wouldn't work. And it was all black when I opened it in Photoshop. Not sure if it necessarily was because I didn't do the compositor, but just in case, I saw some people saying that using the compositor wouldn't work at all, so I tried it and it worked. So yeah, that's it. So I went to watch out, it's not compositors, Octane Composite. Yeah, and of course I have already added it, but you can also use quick add if you don't have it. And this one is pretty trivial. All you want to do is make sure you have a group out. I think these tools are set up by default. So just click on plus, a list of valid valid options show up, and then you select render output AOV. Alright, there are other options like Cryptomat. Never used this one. I think it's mostly used to overlay and do complex composition with cinema style using real images, etc. Not very useful for game development, if at all. But yeah, render output AOV. You select the basic input, output channel, enable post-processing, and well, I used it. Like I said, I'm not super sure if it was needed, but it did work after that. So once it's done, you go to rendering. Yeah, make sure to fit your camera and layout. You can use the shortcut key to go to the camera view. Make sure it's selected. Adjust the camera as needed. The f-stop, etc. Yeah, just make sure it's correct. Then you can render finally. So if you've set this properly here, after it's done, it's gonna take something like from 40 seconds to 2 minutes. Depends on all the quality settings that you're using, and even the number of passes affects slightly, but yeah, a couple of seconds more if you had to make. Anyways, it shouldn't, but it does. So yeah, if all goes correct, you see the layers that you select an AOV. Does the AOV output? It's gonna look very similar to combine, but yeah, it's post-processing. You see that it's it's a layer which you have to tweak. And here are the denoised options, which I'm actually using. The ones I'm actually using for composition is denoise, diffuse, direct. Denoise, diffuse, indirect. Hey, Brennan, what is diffuse, indirect? This is actually the global illumination contribution. So it's very good for you to tweak how much lighter you want the darker areas. Hope that doesn't sound weird. On Photoshop, it's probably gonna look better. Yeah, this is the direct. Notice in the indirect, you can get a pretty flat color for the lit up regions, which might come in handy for composition again. Then you got reflection. This one apparently is not too much, but it's actually very important because it does provide some reflection hues, which you can use to break up the evenness from the grayscale shades. In my case, it helps a lot. And emission, which is just, you know, the solid regions glowing. And yeah, AV output is just the merge thing. So doing that and saving the image as an EXR, just select open EXR model layer, full depth, codec, etc. Copy on so it doesn't create a duplicate. Saving it. And install the plugin, like I said, go to Photoshop. And then in Photoshop, you know, I'm just starting tweaking, but you guys can start seeing what I'm getting to. This is the previous one I did for the larger panel. I'm doing the small one now. This is for things like endgame stats, etc. So for the small panel, I needed way less details because this, although it looks big, I just wanted resolution. But yeah, these parts are gonna be fixed. They'll be at the corner, and then you have like a couple pixels here, you know, which will actually stretch out in game. So it'll be something like this. Okay, so this is actually going to be pretty small. So it's just detail. It's not like it's going to be big or anything. You know, I just want a detail that would work for any large resolution later, and I can scale it up as needed. But yeah, this is actually, it's going to be like on a small panel like this one, this would be like, you know, this size and not that much. So how did I do this? If you check here, actually I just got reflection, which is bringing me color. Show up. So the reflection, I'm using linear dodge. You got luminosity, which I've done some extensive hand editing because I wanted the halo to show up and not totally delete the light source below it, which makes it too blown up, you know, looks kind of weird. So, but yeah, I didn't know how to export to OpenEXR when I did this one, so I hand edited it a lot. And this is the base diffuse. So it was a pretty simple render, and I've used levels and etc. to adjust it manually, so it wasn't a great process. And since I had 2 more panels, I wanted to do it right and learn how to do it, so that's what I'm sharing with you guys. So basically, you see the channels here after I've, you know, opening is pretty trivial. Just go to open and select from format open EXR, and there you go. Oh, actually, sorry, EXR.io, that's the right one. OpenEXR, I don't know why it doesn't work too well. Anyways, so for post-processing, you see that I'm using lighten, and when when you get this, when you import it, it's gonna come as 32 bits. Because I've used maximum precision, I think it's better for some things. But at the same time, it's not as strong, the effect's not as strong as 8-bit, which is what you get in the end. So you can do it all in 32 bits or 16 bits. Just notice that some options will not be available, and that's pretty rough. So, yeah, tough decision. So post-processing is here, the emission, separate layer. Yeah, this is the one which I said is very important because it actually adds up in color. Actually, it's the reflection. Yeah, reflection adds up color. And yeah, so what you can do here is just add new adjustment layers for levels. For instance, this one will work in 32 bits. So you can, tweak the curves a little bit, brighten it up, darken it when you feel it's needed. And very important thing is to use the diffuse indirect to tweak how much indirect lighting you get from the bottom. You see, like so. Well, not from the bottom, in the dark regions is a better way to put it. And yeah, diffuse direct, you see that it's basically the base color. So you probably want to do levels for this guy, not for reflection direct. That'll just make the color stronger. Adjustment layer is not working here. Let me edit it again. Layer, adjustment layer, levels. Okay. The mask, somehow I lost the mask. I decided to not play with it, but it would be easy to fix it. Alright, so this is the right guy for you to take the darkness on the dark shades. Yeah, and the lightness on the... So the more you narrow those guys, the more you bring them together, the more contrast you get. And of course you balance that out with the indirect reflection. So yeah, messing with the fill will give you a more enhanced or a more subtle effect. So yeah, rest is basically artistic choice, artistic direction. So of course you can do things like duplicate the noise, reflection direct to make it even more colorful if you want, merge those two, etc, etc. Okay, to reach more or less what I was getting to here. And once you're satisfied, off, or if you want to work directly in 8 bits, go to image adjustments, image mode, 8 bits, and that'll give you something like this. Okay, so when you convert to 8 bits, bear in mind you get, it won't look like 32 bits. Not just because of precision, just because the conversion is not precise, or I don't know, there's something lost there. So if you freeze, like if you merge all the layers and convert it to 8 bits, it'll be pretty much perfect. But if you convert and keep the layers, you see differences. All right, some math stuff, I believe. Well, that's it. So with that done, yeah, just export this into PNG or whatever format you want to use in game, and it's done. That's it. If you have any questions or curiosity, send it to me. Thank you. Cheers.